Welcome to the Shelterbox Canada Volunteer Training webinar. This is your introduction to Shelterbox Canada. We will look at why Shelterbox exists, the aid we distribute to families around the world, the use of partnerships, and finally, what it means to volunteer with Shelterbox Canada. Following this webinar, with the completion of your volunteer documentation, you will have access to a more comprehensive set of volunteer resources, including our Changemaker handbook and volunteer portal. The handbook goes into much greater detail of what is presented here and will help you understand more fully what it means to be a part of our team. Let us begin. Shelterbox is an organization made up of people who believe in shelter as a human right. That shelter from the chaos of disaster and conflict is vital. We are impatient to create a world where no family is without shelter when disaster strikes. Together we are making an impact, and you are a critical part of our movement. As a change maker, you provide the link between people who need support and those who want to give it. Let's learn more about Shelterbox. Over the past 19 years, our Shelterbox team has helped to rebuild the lives of more than 1.2 million people worldwide, but the global need for shelter is growing. In 2017 alone, 26.5 million people did not receive the vital emergency shelter aid they so desperately needed after being forced to flee their homes after disaster. Only 1 in 5 families worldwide received the support they needed. In any given year, an average of 20 people are driven from their homes every minute, or 1 person every 3 seconds. Less than the time it takes to read that sentence. As a forward-thinking and fast-growing international disaster relief charity, Shelterbox specializes in hand-delivering emergency shelter to families who need it most. At Shelterbox, we look to give these families back a place of stability where they can begin to rebuild their lives and their communities. We're able to do this through the tireless efforts of a strong and extensive support team of volunteers who give their time, talent, and energy to help us transform lives and rebuild communities. What's important to us? These 5 key things are what is important to Shelterbox. They are family, embracing change, knowledge, relationships, and treading our own path. We're determined to see a world where no family goes without shelter when disaster strikes. It's the sole reason we exist. Family comes first. Every decision we make is based on the people we help, on transforming lives, on rebuilding hope, and empowering those in their own self-recovery. We're not scared of change, we embrace it. We nurture it and encourage it in order to reach more people. Every disaster is different, and so is every response. We keep evolving to make sure we get the exact support families need in the best possible way. We are dynamic. We work with other organizations, global partners, and most importantly, the people we help to develop our expertise. We don't just use our past experience to guide our future, but we keep learning. This is why we are experts in shelter. We have strong bonds, just like the families we help. Shelterbox is made up of dedicated staff, supporters, and volunteers. Guided by the people we help and support from solid partnerships, we have the knowledge, vitality, and conviction to go further, faster. We've always been different, but that's a good thing. We step out of the mainstream, muddy our boots, and cut through red tape to help people others can't or won't be able to reach. We go to the hardest to reach communities and work with partners on the ground to ensure that no family is without shelter. Our history. Shelterbox was founded in the year 2000 in the small town of Helston in Cornwall, United Kingdom. That same year, the Rotary Club of Helston Lizard adopted it as their Millennium Project. Little did they know that Shelterbox would become a Rotary International Project Partner with an ever-growing number of international affiliates. Shelterbox Canada is a registered charity that has been part of the Global Shelterbox Network since 2010. We are one of 18 affiliates. Our national office is located in Toronto, and we are made up of 5 staff members. We have a team of over 100 volunteers from coast to coast who share their passion with us and help us raise awareness and funds all across the country. So you can see where some of our volunteers are located all across the country. We have people in nearly every province and territory and a really diverse group of people. Rotary International Partnership. Working with partners helps us to go further, faster. It gives us the flexibility to work in different areas and reach even more families in need of shelter when disaster strikes. We are project partners with Rotary International, a global community of 1.2 million neighbours, friends, and community leaders. Rotary has supported Shelterbox from the start when a local club championed the simple idea to package up essential shelter items in our now iconic shelter boxes. As Shelterbox grew, so did Rotary support, and we are now international project partners in disaster relief. Rotarians and Rotary groups all over the world help Shelterbox in a variety of ways. In addition to tireless fundraising, they provide invaluable assistance during our response. The personal community connection helps us to provide just the right support to enable people to lead their own recovery and make sure that our work has a lasting impact. Rotarians are usually our first point of contact on the ground following a disaster. If you would like to learn more about Rotary and our partnership, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to share some more resources. How are we funded? Shelterbox is funded by public donations and Rotary contributions, Canadian individuals, companies, and groups. We do not receive government funding. We rely on your support to help us hasten the day when no family goes without shelter when disaster strikes. Shelterbox pre-positions aid around the world so that our teams can respond immediately following a disaster. Donations allow us to be prepared to respond immediately when families need our help. To be as effective as possible in providing immediate help to families, we do not accept donations designated to a specific country or disaster. The way we work means we have to be prepared for immediate response. Donations received before a disaster will often be those that are used to respond to it. Donations stimulated because of a disaster may be used to prepare for the next one. By donating to Shelterbox Canada, you are helping us to use your money to make the most difference in families in desperate need of shelter. Talk to anyone who doesn't have shelter, and the answer is simple. Shelter is more than just a roof. It's a home. It's the foundations for life, for families, for communities. The shelter we provide protects a family from burning heat, bitter cold, dangerous animals, and disease. But it means so much more. A shelter creates a space where families can have privacy from the rest of the world, where they can feel safety and security in being together. When natural disasters and conflicts occur, our Shelterbox operations team make careful assessments to ensure that Shelterbox aid is right for the situation. We will consider the type of disaster and the level of damage, as well as the needs of the community and their ability to recover, before selecting the right type of support. We are then able to quickly transport items from our pre-positioned hubs around the world to exactly where it is needed. The need for shelter is ever growing, and unfortunately, we aren't able to help everyone. That is why we have the decision to deploy criteria, which helps us to make the tough decisions and prioritize the most vulnerable families around the world who otherwise wouldn't receive assistance. We use questions to help us decide whether a Shelterbox response is appropriate based on the need, what aid we can offer, and if we have the available resources. We also recognize that in some cases, we are not best suited to help, and these questions help us ensure that we are reaching families and communities with whom Shelterbox aid will provide what they need when they need it. If you're interested in reading our specific decision to respond criteria, you can find it in the handbook. How we do it. We deliver the essentials people need to begin rebuilding and recovering their lives in the aftermath of a disaster. Each disaster is different, and so is every community. We don't believe that one size fits all, so we considered assessments to provide aid that is tailored to meet the needs of a community after a specific disaster. Our first consideration is always, what is the shelter solution that families need? Do they need a tent or the tools to rebuild their home? Our signature shelter boxes and shelter kits contain the tools to transform lives and rebuild communities. Our sturdy green shelter boxes are designed to help people who've lost everything, not just their home and precious belongings, but practical tools and utensils that create the framework for everyday life. Each box contains a family-sized tent that protects people from the elements and provides a safe space in which people can start to recover from physical and emotional trauma. The contents differ depending on the disaster and the climate, but items such as solar lights, water storage, and purification equipment, thermal blankets, and cooking utensils help start the process of creating a home. Let's take a look at our tents. The most used tent option by Shelterbox is a standard disaster relief tent. The tent is waterproof, UV protected, and because of its dome construction, it can withstand extreme temperatures, high winds up to 100 kilometers per hour, and heavy rainfall. The exterior and interior lining form a ventilation system that naturally creates a 10-degree difference in the ambient temperature and allows the tent to stay dry in up to 6 inches of standing water. This tent may also be fitted with a winterized liner for use in cold environments. The Oasis tent is perfect to use in extremely hot climates. The fully geodesic family tent has great ventilation, high stability, and the ability for 2 fully closed bedrooms for privacy. The inner lining comes already attached in this tent, and the large front porch provides ample shade to protect families from the beating sun. The UN tent is often used in conflict areas or in camps that have already been established prior to the arrival of a Shelterbox response team. These tents will be used in already established camps so that families are all receiving the same aid. We often work with local partners to determine what aid is for the current situations. They are often also used in conflict areas due to safety concerns. Our other shelter solution is the shelter kit. One of the things that we hear from people following a disaster is that they want to rebuild their homes and livelihoods as soon as possible. Our shelter kits contain a selection of materials including toolkits, ropes, fixings, and heavy-duty tarpaulins that can be used to make emergency shelters, repair damaged buildings, and create the foundations for new homes. We also customize these kits to suit the location and the needs of each community. Sometimes the kits include corrugated iron to help make resilient roofing, or room dividers and mattresses to make warehouses habitable, whatever it takes to help people recover from disaster. Our shelter kits don't just include tools and material. Depending on the situation, we will send a mixture of other essential aid items, such as solar lights, mattresses, water filters, and containers to help people return to normality as soon as possible. Meet Eliza. Eliza is a great example of how we decide whether we're going to use a shelter box or a shelter kit. Eliza is from Malawi. In 2015, Eliza's community was hit with severe flooding. Losing a home through damage or total destruction is devastating for anyone, but for some people, their homes mean more than just bricks, mortar, and memories. For people like 21-year-old Eliza, who is blind and epileptic, home is a safe place that she can navigate by touch and feel. Eliza also takes care of her small siblings. In the flooding, Eliza lost a wall and the roof of her home. Everyone in her community received a shelter box and a tent. However, this would not have been a good solution for Eliza. Eliza was familiar with her home and knew how to navigate around it by touch and feel. Putting her into a tent would have been a very difficult adjustment for Eliza and her siblings. Our Shelterbox response team were able to fix Eliza's house with a shelter kit so she could stay somewhere that she feels safe and knows by touch and feel and can navigate easily around her own home. After we've decided if we're going to send a tent or a kit, we then know whether we are sending a totem or a shelter box. The totem is usually sent with a shelter kit. The totem contains our smaller aid items, so for example, solar lights, water filters. So these totems contain those items to help families return to normality as soon as possible. Our shelter box will contain some of our larger aid items, so this could include blankets, ground sheets, solar lights, any essential aid item that is needed for that community. We know that home is much more than bricks and mortar or tarpaulin and tent pegs. That's why we also offer other disaster relief items that are essential for survival and can help to turn a shelter into a home. We test and evaluate all of the aid we provide by talking to and learning from the families who use it. This fuels us to be innovative and to continue evolving. Warmth. Blankets, ground sheets, and mattresses not only provide vital warmth, but comfort too when families are recovering from disaster. These simple items can be used in a variety of ways, from bedding to room dividers, and they can help turn a shelter into a home. Food. Family meals help to provide the framework of everyday life. By providing cooking sets containing a range of sturdy utensils, families can spend quality time together. They can eat meals that provide normality and nourishment. In looking at other contents of our shelter box, the Luminade LED solar light is a powerful tool. Our solar lights can last up to 16 hours on just one charge. They are lightweight and can float in water, making them easy to carry in any situation. Solar lights not only illuminate dark and dangerous paths, but they enable families to cook meals and children to finish their homework when it gets dark. They help create safe environments where people can pick up their daily routine. The solar light given to this family in Bangladesh while they were vulnerable during the Rohingya crisis, having experienced trauma and entirely reliant on the humanitarian community for basic necessities such as food, water, shelter, and protection. The solar light gave light to this family. When disasters devastate the landscape and force families far from home, it can be hard to access safe, clean water. We provide life-saving means of water purification. The water filter has enough capacity to support a family with safe water for a month and stops filtering when it is no longer at 100% to ensure families stay safe. This is Jeanbar. In 2016, Hurricane Matthew caused massive devastation in Haiti. The hurricane completely destroyed Jeanbar's home. She was given a shelter kit with tools, a water filter, solar lights, mosquito nets, and a water carrier. Jeanbar had to collect water, and the water filter made it safe to drink. Jeanbar was able to use the shelter kit and the remnants of her old home to construct a shelter on the site of her old house. Delivery. We go to the ends of the earth to reach the most remote communities that have been devastated by disaster. We do this with the help of an amazing network of volunteers and support from Rotary. Once a request for aid has been identified at Shelterbox HQ, a response team is carefully selected from a pool of more than 250 highly trained volunteers around the world. Our response teams traveled by foot, boat, helicopter, or even tuk-tuk to get there. Stockpiles of aid are held in strategic locations around the world that can be dispatched within hours of a disaster. Once aid arrives in its country of destination, it is met by a Shelterbox response team for processing through customs and organizing onward transport to its final destination. Our support from Rotary is often a key component for getting our aid on the ground. Rotary provides invaluable assistance during our responses. Rotarians are able to give us first-hand knowledge of many of the countries in which we respond, logistical and operational assistance, and vital links into communities. Response team members use all available resources, including support from Rotary and local community leaders to make sure they channel the aid according to need, focusing on the most vulnerable families first. Who are we? Shelterbox Canada is responsible for fundraising and raising awareness across the country. Our national office is located in Toronto with our small but mighty staff team. On our staff team, we have Stephanie Christensen, Executive Director, Tess Whitterfield, Rotary and Community Fundraising Manager, Joanna Black, Individual Giving Manager, Heather Stevens, Database and Donor Relations Coordinator, and I'm Danny Bristow, the Volunteer Program Coordinator. As a Shelterbox Canada Changemaker, you support us in fundraising in your own community. We're looking for people who have an enthusiasm for Shelterbox and can create their own events. Your commitment. At least twice a year, coordinate a Shelterbox fundraiser of your choosing. This could be anything from donating a special occasion to Shelterbox, for example, a birthday, Christmas, anniversary, hosting a Shine for Shelterbox event, planning your own fundraising events, and creating your own fundraising page. Activate in times of disaster. When major disasters strike, we need the help of our volunteers more than ever. During this time, we need the support of our volunteers to share important updates about our current response. We need your support to share these urgent updates within your network and help us to raise funds and awareness while the disaster is in the media spotlight. Shelterbox is funded by public donations from Canadian individuals, companies, groups, Rotarians, and Rotary clubs. We do not receive government funding, and we rely on your support to help us hasten the day when no family goes without shelter when disaster strikes. Shelterbox pre-positions aid around the world so that our teams can respond immediately following a disaster. Donations allow us to be prepared to respond immediately whenever families need our help. To be as effective as possible in providing immediate help to families, we do not accept donations designated to a specific country or disaster. The way we work means we are prepared for immediate response. Donations received before a disaster will often be those that are used to respond to it. Donations stimulated because of a disaster may be used to prepare for the next one. By donating to Shelterbox Canada, you are helping to make the most difference in families after disaster. Donate a special occasion to Shelterbox, for example, a birthday, Christmas, anniversary, or any other holiday. Facebook fundraisers are easy to set up. You can invite your Facebook friends, send notifications, and you can post to the page. It's always really easy to set up, and the great thing is when you meet your goal, you can increase it if you so choose to. We're just going to watch a quick video on how you can set up a Facebook fundraiser. So as you can see, that video was from our Giving Tuesday campaign, which we will talk about a little bit later, but Facebook fundraisers can be used for many different purposes. So fundraising pages are a great thing to do if you're ever stuck on how to start fundraising. One of the easiest ways to start fundraising is setting up a personal fundraising page with Shelterbox Canada. So these are fundraising pages that are hosted through our website. They're really easy to set up. So all you have to do is sign up, set up your page. You can add personalized messaging to it, and then send it within your network. So you can send it via email, you can post on social media, you can even track offline donations that you would receive on your fundraising page too. Shine for Shelterbox. Every fall, communities all over the country get together to brighten lives by hosting a fundraising candlelit dinner for friends and family. Shine for Shelterbox is a campaign that runs from November to February each year and is an easy way for volunteers to gather your friends together to raise funds and awareness for Shelterbox Canada. Hosting your own Shine dinner can be easy as taking something you usually do and adding a Shine for Shelterbox theme. For example, turn your board game night into a Shine event or adding a Shine for Shelterbox theme into your holiday party. It can be as simple as that. We'll provide you with all the tools and resources you need, including invitations, name cards, impact stories, and conversation cards. More information can be found on our website at shelterboxcanada.org/shine. So here are just a couple of photos from some Shine events that volunteers have done in the past. So in the top left, we have a Shine event that was done by our volunteer Kendra and the Rotary Club of Dryden. This is actually a pretty big event, as you can see by all the people there. They had set tables and entertainment for the evening. And then on our right, this is a Shine event that took place in Edmonton. As you can see, a really simple, just a cheese and wine night in someone's home. So keeping it really easy and simple. In the bottom left, we have another big dinner also at someone's home. And then on the bottom right, some of our volunteers went out for a meal at a restaurant. They brought their Luminade and their donation box with them and made it a Shine night. Off the grid. When disasters strike and power lines go down, families are less vulnerable, taken away from comfort, light, and electricity. Off the Grid is a friendly competition between Canadian schools and clubs to raise funds to ensure no family goes without shelter. The money raised by taking the Off the Grid challenge will make a real difference to families in following disaster. Tents, shelter kits, cooking equipment, solar lights, hammers, ropes, and water purification units are just some of the things you can provide to families who need it most. The challenge can be accepted by single students, classes, clubs, or an entire school. Students get together to pick a 12-hour time period that they will not use power. It could be over the weekend, throughout a school day, or into the evening. The rules are simple. No electricity and nothing with an on button. How far you take the challenge is up to you. The bigger the challenge, the more people sponsor you. The more you will be helping people in following disaster who have no shelter, no home, no access to any power. So this is a really fun challenge that can be taken on if you're in a club or if you are trying to get a school interested in fundraising and they want to know different activities they can do. So this is really aimed at that school and club level. Our next campaign is Global Gifts. Shelterbox Canada Global Gifts are a great way to give alternative gifts to family or friends or to thank colleagues, employees, or valued customers. These symbolic gifts include a greeting card for the recipient so they know the aid item was sponsored through the Global Gift. As a volunteer, you could tell clubs, corporations, friends, and family about Global Gifts as an alternative gift option or replace some of your own gifts with Global Gifts. All the Global Gifts can be found on our website at shelterboxcanada.org/gifts. Usually every year around the holiday season, we do a Global Gift Challenge, so stay tuned for that. It's a really great way for people to get involved around the holiday season. Luminade fundraising. So we are proud to have partnered with Luminade in providing solar lights to families after disaster. And we're very excited to have the Luminade fundraising program. It's a great way for Shelterbox supporters to raise funds and awareness about the work we do. So essentially how it works is Luminade has offered us discounted pricing on orders of their solar lights. These solar lights can then be used in a fundraiser. So there's many things you could do. You could sell the lights for their retail value, and then that difference would become a donation to Shelterbox. Or if you were planning an event, they could be given as a gift with donation. So say someone donated $100, you could provide them with a Luminade as a gift for their donation. So it's really easy. All you have to do is visit us online at shelterboxcanada.org/Luminade. Pick the lights. So there's packages, and you can pick the package that works for your own fundraising event or whatever you have planned, and then start fundraising. So you can sell the solar lights at the retail price and then keep the difference, or you can use them for bigger donations as gift donations. If you have any questions about the program or are interested in it, please just let me know. So these are the packages that are available. So as you can see, there's a couple of different packages with different number of lights that are available, and then as well as the cost of the different packages. So here I'm just going to show you some great examples of people who've taken fundraising and made it their own and done their own events tailored to what they like. So you always have the option to be able to plan whatever you're interested in and use a Shelterbox focus in that. So in the top left, this is a Luminade paddle raiser. So this was done in the United States. So they started the night where all the lights are off, and then they would tell stories, and there were presentations, and response team members were present. And then as people donated, they would make a donation, and then once they got a donation, they were handed a Luminade, and they turned the Luminade on. And by the end of the event, everyone had made a donation, and as you can see, they're all holding their Luminades in the air, and they really did brighten lives. In the top right, we have someone who went on a bike tour, and they had a tote box on their back while they were biking. So we've had people do biking, do hikes with the big shelter boxes on their back, just to raise awareness and funds. In the bottom left, we have one of our volunteers who every year makes holiday ornaments and sells them at local community fairs. So she hand makes all of these ornaments and then goes to different events and sells them, and then the proceeds are a donation to Shelterbox. And then on the bottom right, we had someone who did a very beautiful bake sale and made all the little baggies and those beautiful cookies to sell to raise funds for Shelterbox. So there's a lot of different things you can do. You can get your friends, your workplace, your school involved. There's really so many options for you to really make it your own and do things that interest you. So how to make donations. There are many different ways for a supporter to make a donation to Shelterbox Canada. Please use the Shelterbox donation forms, which can be found on our website, and group donation forms when collecting donations in person to ensure that we don't miss any vital information. So the donation forms would be more so when you're doing your own personal fundraising event and collecting money or credit card information in person. In general, there are different ways for people to make a donation. The three main ways are online by going directly to our website. Mail, checks can be made payable to Shelterbox Canada and mailed to our office. And then also we can take donations over the phone. Our office is open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern Time. So tax receipting. Donations from within Canada are tax deductible. Tax receipts are usually mailed or emailed within a week after the donation has been processed in our office. Any donation over $20 will receive a valid tax receipt. It's really important that if you're hosting a fundraising event, you accurately record donors' information so that we are able to issue a tax receipt if their donation is over $20. You can use the following donation forms, and please ensure people write clearly. These donation forms can be found on our website and on the volunteer portal. So this right here is the group donation form. So as you can see, it's really important that we get the full name, home address, the donation amount, and their email. And then also their phone number and how they had made the donation, whether it was check or cash. This is all really important information for us to be able to process donations. This is an individual donation form, so this is where one person would write their information. So this donation form is really good as well if someone would like to pay using their credit card, as it allows them to privately write their donation. It's always important to thank donors when they make a donation. A thank you can go a long way to build loyalty with supporters. If someone donates to an event or your fundraising page, send them a thank you note or an email. In the event of a disaster, Shelterbox aims to respond as fast as possible. This means that we cannot wait for donations, but we draw immediately on existing resources. Shelterbox is constantly responding to disasters around the world. Because of this, we need to ensure that we are prepared to respond ahead of time. It is often that people hear about a disaster in the news and want their donation to go to that destination, but by then, Shelterbox is often already there. Further, Shelterbox can be deployed to multiple disasters at any given time. For this reason, Shelterbox is unable to accept location-specific donations. It is important to make sure that donors understand this message. As a volunteer, you will receive all email communications that are sent to our supporters, such as newsletters and appeals. These emails are so you're always in the know of what's happening at Shelterbox Canada. These newsletters can be forwarded to your networks to engage them with Shelterbox Canada. When a major disaster strikes, this is when we receive an increase in donations and interest from people wanting to help. This is the perfect time as a volunteer to get out into your community and on social media to talk about Shelterbox. During this time, you will receive regular updates from our national office about our response and the current situation. You can share our social media posts and emails, encourage people to donate, engage your local media with Shelterbox Canada. I will always be providing you with the information you need to know and will be updating the portal regularly so that you are knowledgeable about the situation. An important thing to remember when engaging with people in your community about Shelterbox is that we are in need of donations all year round and not just in times of disaster. A great way to spread the word about Shelterbox Canada is engaging your local media. This is Andre, an ambassador and a response team member. Before Andre was deployed to respond in Indonesia in 2018, he contacted his local newspapers to tell them about his deployment. During times of disaster, our national office will often have press releases. You can directly take these releases and submit them to your local media. It's also a great idea to engage your local media if you're ever doing fundraising events in your community. Every year, we recognize some of our incredible volunteers with recognition awards. We have 4 categories. Top fundraiser for the year. The volunteer who has raised the most money during that calendar year. This includes personal donations as well as all donations that are attributed to that volunteer. For an example, if the volunteer does an event, any donation that comes from that event will be attributed to that volunteer. Rising Star, awarded to a new volunteer that has shown amazing potential and gone above and beyond during their first year of volunteering with Shelterbox Canada. All-Star, awarded to a long-standing volunteer who has been an outstanding volunteer over the years to raise awareness and fundraise for Shelterbox Canada. Shining Star, awarded to the volunteer who raised the most money from a Shine